Hello. Rebecca here, your vibe mentor. Welcome to Monday Magic. I'm excited to be here with you. This is my favorite day of the week ever since stepping into my purpose, and it can be for you too. This channel is for those conscious, purpose-driven entrepreneurs who are looking to remove the blocks that hold them back so that you can manifest abundance and step into the life that you deserve. Today, we do a intuitive energy reading. Essentially, I tap into what we have experienced this past week, what we are experiencing right now, and what advice there is for us moving forward. A lot of times it's just helpful to know that you're not alone. And some of you may have been experiencing something similar. And so when we're not alone, it can make us feel like we're supported and we're all in this together, because we are. But sometimes you may be in a different place. So if this doesn't resonate, just go ahead and wait for the next video coming on Wednesday. So where were we last week? I want to add that in last week's Monday Magic, I should have mentioned a very strange anomaly around time. And there was not a lot of solar activity or even a lunar event to point to that says, okay, that explains why time was so funky. Over the last 2 weeks, there's been a fair amount of M flares, but that's been kind of par for the course lately. But no major X-class flares. Actually, I think the second week, not this past week, but the prior week, we did have one small minor. But beyond that, it's all pretty standard for what we've been experiencing lately. Generally quiet Schumann conditions. There's some evidence pointing to the Schumann spiking because of lightning just as much as anything else. So basically everything's par for the course relative to space weather and the Schumann resonance. We do have a new moon coming up tomorrow. So that certainly is bringing in some amplified energy, but I don't really feel a high activation around this one just yet. Knocking on wood as my desk supports me here. But more so, I call out sort of the average par for the course space weather because time was so funky the last 2 weeks. Not this past week, but the prior week, I remember asking myself what day it was multiple times, and just feeling like Thursday was Tuesday and Tuesday was Friday. And it was very strange to try to navigate where we were and what it was. It was almost as if we were bouncing back and forth between timelines or something of that nature. So come to find out, July 25th was dubbed by, I can't say who the source is, but the day out of time, because if you were to follow the lunar calendar, there's 364 days. And so July 25th was said to be the 365th day of what would have been the lunar calendar. So it's interesting. I can't find a source on that. So take it for what it's worth, but it felt relevant that was really struggling to kind of figure out what day it was for the last 2 weeks or so. And then here comes the statement that it was the day out of time. It really felt like it was time out of time in the last couple of weeks. So let me know if you're feeling the funkiness around time as well. The full moon is peaking tomorrow, August 1st, around 2:30 p.m. I believe that's Eastern time. Again, don't quote me on that. But it's seemingly softer so far, although I would say the amplification of energy, meaning I have more energy, is already starting, which is obviously common for a full moon. More light, more energy. As far as what we've been experiencing, sort of the themes of what I feel we are being asked to do, it has a lot to do with surrender, letting go. I even had the visual of someone who is drowning and how they are fighting the water, struggling to survive, when if they would just learn to float on their back, it would be easy. And it feels like that's what we're being asked to do right now, is to step so deeply into surrender and faith and trust that we are floating above all of the turbulence of these emotional waters that are bouncing all around us right now. And so as we put down resistance, we are able to float through the allowing of all emotions. And if you've watched the videos from last week, both of them really touched on resistance and difficult emotions like grief or pain, even, frustration or anticipation or expectations that are not met. My best friend likes to say that expectations are premeditated resentment, which I think is amazing, because we have already decided that if things don't go our way, we're not going to be happy. When really what we should be deciding is that I'm going to be happy no matter what. The universe is conspiring in my favor in all ways every day. And so everything that happened must be awesome and amazing. And I'm going to choose to see it that way. And I can choose happiness. I can have premeditated happiness just as well as I can have premeditated resentment. And so it is that letting go of resistance. And it is really just, it's like the trust fall into God's hands, into the energy of that moment, into the emotion of that moment, and really getting emotionally articulate with what we are experiencing, and looking for just the tiniest bit of resistance. Because so often when we brace and we hold on for dear life and we clench and we try not to feel the pain, that is the resistance that actually makes it harder. So pain plus resistance equals suffering. So we're really kind of going back to the basics and getting even more exercised or practiced at recognizing resistance and surrendering even more. And it is also helping us to sort of pare back to the minimum of what's really important, that we are redefining our priorities, which is helping us step out of the old and into the new as we let go of more and more things internally and externally. It feels like a wrap up, that it's kind of like the spring cleanup or the fall shutdown, right? We're in that fall shutdown here in the US, but it might be a spring cleanup, on the other parts of the world. We're in a bit of a busyness. Last week was pretty busy. There was a lot of activity. There was a lot of communications, a lot of phone calls and text messages and handymen and people in and out and people fixing things and cleaning up gutters and emptying out closets and repairing things that were broken. And we're doing this both inside as much as we are outside. That paring back, that letting go, the surrender, the trust fall, the floating, all of this is just letting it all move through us without clinging to, which is the resistance that stops the flow, right? So what we're doing, it feels very much like we're preparing to shift gears. That it's almost like if you move across the country or you move to the other side of the world, you have to get rid of 70, 80, 90% of your belongings. That's what it feels like right now, is all those things that we've carried with us, both internally and externally. We're having to really reevaluate and decide what's important. What do I take forward and what do I leave here? And it feels more so internal than it does external, but of course, as within, so without. So there's a reflection there. The term melting or molding into the flow of change is what came up. And it's interesting because melting was the first word, but then melding kind of came with it. And it's like becoming one with the flow of what is happening right now. And it's recommitting to our priorities, and reevaluating our priorities allows us to, again, pare away all the things that we don't need, but to melt into or mold with, or even become one with what is moving into us right now, what is moving through us, and sort of where we're going, as if we're becoming one with the waters, right? It reminds me of the song row, row, row your boat, right? Gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 life is but a dream. When you allow yourself to meld with the flow of the current, to go with it, right? More flow is less resistance, is more health and more happiness in return. And what's really interesting is this past week also came with a lot of fatigue. Again, I love, if you're on Facebook, search Pat Donsworth, but they talk about unmeasurables, right? We can measure the KP index and we can measure the Schumann resonance, and we can see that there was a coronal mass ejection on Tuesday last week. And yes, we did peak a KP5 at one point in the week, but it was pretty minor, right? All those things are measurable, but to talk about the unmeasurables, Especially, what days was that? Friday and Saturday, especially. I was so tired, so tired. Fatigue I have not experienced in a long time, more so than there's been quite a bit of fatigue recently, but legs just tired. The whole body just said, stop, you must stop. And so, and I love those moments when I do stop and I take that quick cat nap, and it just feels like it's like a battery powering up or powering down. There's just kind of a fill up and also an emptying out that happens. And it was like, okay, download received or whatever. That's just kind of how it feels, right? It's like, oh, something was trying to come through and it couldn't until I rested. And then the 20-30 minute cat nap didn't used to really make me feel rested, used to make me feel even more tired. But this time, it's just kind of like, boop, everything you needed, all better, right? The best rest Friday night. Woke up very late Saturday morning, or late for me. So 8:30, and I was like, wow, can't believe what time it was. So there's obvious calls to rest, obvious calls for supporting the body. The body has more density. The body is it has more to transmute, right? It has more to work through as we are leveling up. And I have noticed too some dizziness and lightheadedness. It's almost as if I get this in therapy too, when I let go of an old trauma or I move through something, there's sort of a lightheadedness and it feels like a moving up. And so that's been relatively present this last week as well. And in some strange sense, in the fatigue and the listening and the rest and the dizziness, there's a lightening of the load. There's things that, again, it's the resistance and the letting go and the surrender that's supporting all of this process. Funny that even as I explain this to you now, I'm experiencing it. We are lightening the load so that we can move up higher. And it's just so important that we just trust God's plan. We trust the universe is conspiring in our favor in all ways, every day. Allow it to come and notice. And I think that's important. That wants to be reiterated. Allowing it to come. Not by thy strength, right? It's not up to us. We have such a fine line to walk between understanding how we take our power and authority back and how we create our future, and yet allowing Source to bring that to us, allowing it to flow to us. I don't know about you, but if I look back into my past, the times where the most amazing changes that happened in my life came to me without my effort, right? Or maybe I had the divinely inspired thought to go look for a job posting that day, and I discovered the next job that was going to bring a $30,000 increase, with each position that I took. But there are times too where it literally just feels like a switch is flipped and something falls in my lap. It's those things that seem to just kind of drop in our lap that really are the pivotal moments, the major milestones in our life, the really good things that happen. And so when we're in that state of resistance, we are blocking, we are not allowing that to come to us. And so we are asked to really refrain from excessive action and take inspired action only. Now, I want to preface it with, if you're someone who's already taking a lot of action, that's for you. If you're not taking hardly any action, then you need a little bit more action, but make sure that it's inspired action, right? I joke that we should be playing Marco Polo with the divine. We should listen and take action, listen and take action. If you've been waiting for a long time, you're not taking enough action, right? And again, that's a nuanced statement, so I want to be careful. I don't want to make blanket statements like that. So what is the guidance going forward? How are we to move through this next week or next couple of weeks? I'm also feeling a very, very strong call to nourish, to rest, to heal, to hydrate, to become as clean and detoxified and healthy as possible, to be as strong as possible. That's the message that's been coming through. Gather your strength, be as healthy as possible, eliminate every possible toxin. And that's not just, food or drink or alcohol or drugs but it's also pornography. It's music that is programming you the wrong way. It's television, it's news, it's your thought life. Clean it all up, because every stressful thought or negative thought comes with a load of stress hormones, which is a toxic acidic chemical in your body, which creates disease. So we have to clean up, not just from a nutrient perspective, but also an emotional perspective, a thought life perspective. And so really, I cannot exaggerate this enough. Source really wants us to get strong, get healthy, be clear and clean, and keep your eyes on God. Put God first in all things. And that is what is going to bring you the safety, the peace, the happiness, and the protection that you need to go forward through whatever is coming for us. The term, the peace that passes all understanding, comes to mind, that it is not up to us to keep ourselves safe. And our channel talks a lot about healing trauma and wounds and these blocks that live in our body. And to us, it can seem like we have to strive and struggle and fight for safety all the time. We live in hypervigilance when we are unhealed. Again, that's a very toxic, acidic state of being physically in your body, and it will break you down. It will create disease. And the strangest thing, the illogical thing, that is, if you are keeping your eyes on God and you are allowing Source to support you and to provide for you, if you are allowing Source to be your source, you will have a peace that passes all understanding, which means it's illogical to be comfortable when you don't know where the next paycheck's going to come from. It's illogical to be at ease and in rest when you don't know where the next grocery haul is going to come from. There is a spiritual battle going on, and we are the warriors, yes, but our job is surrender and trust and faith and keeping our eyes on God, so that we can be the conduits for Source to come through, heal others, and win the battle for us. It is not up to us to carry the weight of the world on our shoulders. It's not up to us to figure out how to solve these problems. It is only our job to step into that healed nervous system state so that we can be magnetic, receive, and allow. Right? So, and the last piece that came through was, you may have to try everything else before you land here. That many of us, I don't want to say it was our fault, right? To no fault of our own is what it really wants to come through. The conditioning, the programming of the world, it tells us to go try all these other things. Do it yourself, do it alone, be a loner, so many things. I can't even begin to list them all. But some of us have to learn by doing and learn by trying. And so we have to go out and try all the different things before we come back to understanding that resistance is futile. And the only option is to stop kicking and screaming in the water and learn to float by keeping our eyes on God. So that is all I have for you this week. I hope you are faring the energetic weather well. I am here for you if you need any support. Lots of links below, so check them out. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video on Wednesday. Take care. Namaste, my friends. And who knows, maybe something comes earlier. Make sure you're subscribed, and I will notify you when the next video comes out. Take care. Namaste.